we as Indians are to be blamed for this because we ourselves introduced green revolution. So we introduced the coming of pesticides, fertilizers, and all wrong things with agriculture, overutilization of underground water. And then now, we say that we have harmed the environment. So do you think green revolution is something which was harmful for India? Rural credit is often discussed through numbers and targets. From your experience, which policy intervention in rural finance truly worked on the ground and which fall short? Even today, a lot of slum areas and a lot of rural area do not have access to clean water, do not have access to electricity, do not have access to connectivity. So even though these programs have been launched, and definitely they have done a lot, do you still think that there is still a long journey ahead? Because I mean, even after so many years of independence, we don't see as much as inclusivity in the rural sector that should have happened. Today's guest is someone who has spent decades working at the heart of India's development and financial institutions, and he continues to shape policy conversations even today. Dr. Debesh Roy is an economist and development professional with over 3 decades of experience across public finance, rural development, infrastructure, agriculture, climate change, and exports. He served for more than 30 years at NABARD, rising to the position of Deputy General Manager, where he worked closely on rural credit, institutional finance, and development policy at scale. Post his tenure at NABARD, Dr. Roy has continued his engagement with policy as senior consultant at IRADE and as an independent consultant advising infrastructure, agriculture, finance, and climate related issues. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Azu.
Sir, we'd like to go ahead and tell the audience about how your experience at NABARD was.
Uh, yes, I joined NABARD way back in 1988, and it was a wonderful experience. More than 30 years I worked there, and I had a varied experience from refinancing banks to infrastructure development and institutional development and financial inclusion, the SIG bank linkage program, FPOs. So a varied experience, and most important, there was a 5-year tenure of district development manager at Raebareli in Uttar Pradesh,
Okay.
where it is actually a district development manager is a one-man office in a district who is actually who coordinates with everybody, right from the district administration, district magistrate to the bankers to everybody, and he is an advisor to the state government, to bankers, to everybody. So that was a great experience, a field level experience. That's the one experience which a Nabadian gets at the field. So
Okay.
that was a great experience, which actually helps you go higher up
Grow.
and understand the reality of rural India.
Okay, got it. So, sir, looking back, what has changed the most and what has remained largely unchanged in India's rural economy?
Yes. Uh, what has changed most, I must say, is connectivity, physical, digital, and financial. So, rural India today is much better connected to roads, banks, markets, your schools, colleges, and hospitals, as well as your uh, mobile network. Now, NABARD, for almost 3 decades, they've been financing state governments through the Rural Infrastructure Development Fund, RIDF, a variety of infrastructure, but a major portion goes to rural connectivity. Then, of course, Government of India's scheme of PM Sadak Yojana, which also provides connectivity. So that's the physical part, physical infrastructure. Then digital infrastructure of Government of India's, support for digital public infrastructure, and the Bharat Net, which provides, broadband connectivity in rural areas, and then internet connectivity and mobile connect networks everywhere in rural India. So that has dramatically changed the rural economy. And apart from that, I must also speak about financial inclusion, digital financial inclusion. And while financial inclusion started years ago, but during the last decade, you'll find that Government of India through the Jan Dhan Yojana, the JAM Trinity, Jan Dhan Mobile and Aadhaar, which has actually enabled the economy to the rural economy to prosper through better financial inclusion. Through already there's an architecture, the financial architecture, like the commercial banks, RRBs, and the cooperative banks, microfinance institutions, your small finance banks and fintech companies. So there's a very strong financial architecture. So along with it, with the digital support from the government, so that's been a great development as far as the connectivity is concerned. Now, what has not changed actually? That's a very important point, and that is, a large majority of a large portion of India's population, they live in rural areas,
Right.
and they depend on agriculture. So about 46% of the working population in the country, they depend on agriculture, and that's about 250 million people. So agriculture, as you know, is there is disguised unemployment. We all know that as economists, we know that there's something called disguised unemployment, and you don't need more people there. You need to move out people from agriculture towards other sectors. It could be agriculture value chain towards the non-farm sector, service sector, and then agriculture continues to be very vulnerable. So I must say that the farmers live in a VUCA world of volatile prices, uncertain rainfall and income, then complex, the institutional mechanisms and policy ambiguities. So this is a structure which they still continue to suffer from. And there is the problem of the market linkages. So there's not been any reforms in agriculture markets. So this is something which is important and is actually
Unchanged.
remain unchanged.
Right. But so, sir, very recently I was looking at this, one of the, I think you might have heard of Samdesh. He is one of the very famous news anchor who kind of runs his own YouTube channel. And there I saw that even today, a lot of, slum areas and a lot of rural area do not have access to clean water, do not have access to electricity, do not have access to connectivity. So, even though these programs have been launched, and definitely they have done a lot, do you still think that there is still a long journey ahead? Because, I mean, even after so many years of independence, we don't see as much as inclusivity in the rural sector that should have happened.
Yeah, actually, development is a process, and government during the last decade has been a focus on, the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and then financial inclusion, and then even connectivity, water connectivity, then electricity connectivity. So development is a process. It's happening. It's not that it's not happening. There are definitely areas, and India is a huge country. So it takes, and when there's a central government, there are state governments and district and local government.
Right.
So there has to be a coordination. Every agency, every department has to play a role, and there has to be a coordinated approach, and then only it can happen. But development is a process. You know that it's happening, but still things have changed dramatically over the years. And there are remote areas where even your finance has there's been financial inclusion, but things are that it's a long journey. It will happen, but it has happened. Definitely, it has happened, and we are definitely going to reach a developed economies status by say 2047. Things are happening. It will happen, but there's need to be a coordinated effort by all stakeholders concerned. Everybody, all stakeholders, including citizens, everyone.
Got it, sir. Sir, agriculture, infrastructure, and climate change, they are increasingly interconnected. How should policymaker rethink agricultural development in climate risk area?
Yes, first of all, agriculture both is one of the major contributors to greenhouse gas emissions, and it is also one of the most climate vulnerable sectors. So, two ways it's getting affected, and the policy needs to be shift from production centric to risk centric,
Okay.
and there has to be a focus on managing risks, climate risk, then market risk, income risk, and then there's this both mitigation as well as adaptation. Both should go together. There should not be any focus just simply on mitigation or simply on adaptation, but both should needs to go together. So as far as agriculture is concerned, as far as mitigation is concerned, there are certain practices like better water use. For example, the in paddy cultivation, for example, the alternate drying and wetting practice, or say the use of biofertilizers, and then your renewable energy. So, for example, the use of solar pump sets, agroforestry. So these are the factors which could lead to mitigation, and then adaptation, use of the seeds which are climate resilient, then micro irrigation, uh, insurance is important, and of course a very good system of the extension services, because extension services are very poor, and in order to make the farmers aware and go forward with this adaptation practices, it's important to have this the extension services. So there needs to be a coordinated effort towards the various areas like water, energy, infrastructure, finance, and climate policy. So there needs to be a coordinated approach towards these, and then only the rural economy can be more sustainable and resilient.
Got it. Do you think we as Indians are to be blamed for this because we ourselves introduced green revolution? So we introduced the coming of pesticides, fertilizers, and all wrong things with agriculture, overutilization of underground water, and then now we say that we have harmed the environment. So do you think green revolution is something which was harmful for India?
Actually, Green Revolution was the need of the hour at that time, because what India lived through was something called ship to mouth. We depended on the PL 480 from support from the US, and that was the need of the hour. Production and food self-sufficiency, that was the need of the hour. But what happened was that overuse of fertilizers, chemical fertilizers, then free water. For example, in the state of Punjab, where paddy is not the traditional
Right.
crop. So what happened is that because of all these water, your various subsidies, fertilizers, then pesticides, so it led to overuse of these, and then overuse of water, irrigation. And so what happened was that it led to environmental problems, your groundwater problem, which led to depletion of groundwater, and then so it should not have. The problem is that the Green Revolution concentrated in one area, Punjab, Haryana, and Western UP, and other areas got neglected. So definitely, it was something which has harmed the country, and there is a need to diversify, and that is not happening because the farmers are not getting the incentives to diversify. So that is another issue. And we have in the country majority of farmers belonging to the small and marginal category, and they are very vulnerable. So what is needed is definitely a rethink, a completely new kind of revolution, a real green revolution, which has to be green in nature. That is more of
Right.
based on renewable energy, and so it has to be a green revolution in a true sense. So, but what has happened is that it has harmed a lot through
Right.
green revolution.
That's right, sir. So, sir, rural credit is often discussed through numbers and targets. From your experience, which policy intervention in rural finance truly worked on the ground and which fall short?
Okay, what my experience in NABARD is that what truly worked was that there are various interventions. Now, let me point out a few. First is the refinance which NABARD provides to banks and other financial institutions. Through that, actually, there is a focused attention to, you know, say, demand for crop loan and short-term credit for the farmers, as well as the long-term investment credit, which leads to capital formation. Now, without refinance, maybe the bankers would not have gone to that extent, but because of the refinance support, it has led to an increase in rural credit. And then what is important, I must say, is that there's been a decentralized credit planning, and that's been a very important thing. Like what NABARD does is at the district level, it prepares what is known as the Potential Linked Credit Plan, PLP. So based on the potential in the district, the infrastructure gaps, and the requirements of the districts. So they prepare what is known as a potential linked credit plan for the district for a particular year, and on it covers various sectors which have the potential for finance, and also it covers block level targets as well. So now based on that PLP, the district credit plan is prepared. So based on it's actually a guide for preparation of the district credit plan. Now there again it goes from the block level to the district level, and now the plans, the PLP, which is again aggregated at the state level as state focus paper, and the state credit plan is prepared based on that, and then the actual plan, which is the district credit plan, that is again aggregated at the state level as a state credit plan. So NABARD's role is to provide the direction to the banks that these are the, and also to the state governments. It's a consultative process, and to the state government that these are the priorities, these should be the priorities, these are the areas. So credit planning has been from the bottom up approach, and definitely that has worked. Second thing which I must say about this is infrastructure financing, and infrastructure is important for creating services and industry, and uh, uh, it leads to increase in demand for credit for productive activities, and it results in resilience. And so infrastructure financing like NABARD has, for example, led to financing of roads, bridges, uh, food parks, and various other infrastructure, even electricity transmission projects. And so third thing which I would like to mention is about climate policy. And NABARD has been the the national entity for UNFCCC's Adaptation Fund as well as Green Climate Fund, and also Government of India's National Adaptation Fund. So NABARD has been playing a role in both financing of the adaptive projects as well as the mitigation project of the green climate. So this again has been important in terms of financing of towards rural finance. And another important factor is financial inclusion through the microfinance, that is the uh, SAG Bank linkage program, which is one of the world's largest microfinance programs that was initiated by NABARD. So all these have led to capacity building, and also there have been other interventions like say improvement in livelihoods through tribal development plans, and then your watershed development. So these are various interventions which have actually led to improvement in credit quality. And what has not worked, you might say, is that when when the banks do not appraise their credit properly, or the borrowers properly, so what that leads to NPAs and all. So if there is just a target for credit, it doesn't really work unless and until there is a proper development process and capacity building.
So, as economic students, we understand that when we talk about rural credit, especially because most of them are farmers, there is a very heavy risk involved because we are dealing with agricultural sector credit, and we do not know what the outcome of agriculture would be in a particular year. So, how do we mitigate this risk? How do we ensure that a big institute like NABARD takes care of this risk in agriculture and hence risk in rural area?
As I've already said that it's capacity building, and then various the ecosystem that is created which helps, in your alternative employment opportunities, like for example the MSME sector, the rural non-farm sector, where in fact NABARD has been promoting this. So there can be alternative employment opportunities in the rural areas, apart from and also the, as I said, the SHG bank linkage program, which actually empowers rural women, mostly rural women and rural youth. So these are sectors where people can move from agriculture towards these non-agriculture sectors. And as I said, there was the problem of disguised unemployment, so people can move there, and also the development of say food processing and the whole agri value chain. And with majority of farmers belonging to small and marginal categories, the farmer producer organizations have an important role to play. Now these with FPOs, there's a resilience is being built among the farmers. They become more productive. They move towards processing and value chain addition. So that's why FPOs is another project which has helped and which will be helping. It has a long future. Actually, there's a long way to go, but then things are happening in this regard to mitigate, and of course, climate change, as I said. So these are various efforts which lead to mitigation and, for risk mitigation in
Got it.
agriculture.
Right. Sir, what about infrastructure? Infrastructure is usually seen as an urban growth story. How critical is rural infrastructure for export, productivity, and economic growth?
Yes. Uh, Infrastructure, like for example, for any kind of production, you need, processing facilities, then roads,
Right.
other connectivities, then logistics, and so there's this program of one product, one district, one product. So where an ecosystem is being created for these products, and then you have better connectivity, power. So these are these various infrastructure which can lead to exports, connectivity to ports, to airports.
Okay.
So and then the warehouses, other centers, cold chain. So these are various infrastructure which can really help the exports of agricultural produce or processed produce. And so
So,
that's all.
do you, so, what you mentioned, do you produce one particular product in a rural area and create infrastructure around it? Is
No,
it
no,
that?
it's not like that. Infrastructure is it's common. For example, when it comes to say roads or
Okay.
other connectivity or the cold chains. So they cater to different products. And what I was speaking about was that one district, one product. That is, that's a government program where one district, for example, as is traditionally it produces a certain commodity. So there's a focus on that particular commodity for exports. And infrastructure as a whole, it leads to a various lot of different kinds of infrastructure being created, which caters to the needs of different sectors.
Okay. But so coming back to my question, do you think that infrastructure is still an urban growth story or has it actually reached the
No,
rural
no,
sector?
it has reached the rural areas. As I said, that a number of projects, like for example, the food parks, large food parks have been created for food processing industry. Then there have been, electricity transmission. There have been better roads, logistics. So these are happening. It's not that as I said, development is a process and it will take time. It is taking time, and it's happening. There has been a thrust on rural infrastructure. As I said, NABARD is one of the leading players as far as rural infrastructure is concerned. So wide variety of infrastructure is being created.
Okay.
So it is helping. It is helping the rural economy, and certainly.
So, from I'll tell you from my experience. So, if we go from here to say Agra and a bit beyond it, you'll see that wherever the government wants to pass the expressway through, you'll see development happening in those villages.
Yes. Yes.
But I just go say 5 kilometers inside the village, and you will see the road is a kacha road
Right. Right.
still, and you'll see the electricity is not yet there. But just the place from which that expressway has to pass or the highway has to pass, that would be fully developed.
True.
So do we just see the infrastructure in places where people have to pass through, or is it actually getting deep down to the villages? Because I mean,
Yes.
I still think that a lot of people have not got access to the right infrastructure.
Right, true, I agree. But at the same time, I must say that during the last 30 years, and even it's been my experience, even in remotest areas, roads have passed, like say
Okay.
NABARD RIDF roads have passed. And so, what is important is maintenance of these roads. It's just the financing which has happened, but what is important is the maintenance, and that has not. And that is important that there needs to be a budgetary source for such maintenance. So unless and until if you create an infrastructure and it doesn't work, and similarly with say warehouses and all, sometimes what happens, you'll find that even in warehouses it's converted to say marriage houses instead of
Right.
say keeping commodities. So, proper use and maintenance, that is important. And of course, this being a large country, there has to be better connectivity. It is happening, but it has to improve, certainly.
So, institutions like NABARD have navigated liberalization, financial reforms, and even climate concerns. How has the role of such institutions evolved over time?
Yes, for example, I'll give the example of NABARD, which initially we had, focus on refinance and institutional development of, say, RRBs and the cooperatives. And then over the years, we focused on infrastructure development, focused on, microfinance and capacity building, and then rural non-farm sector, the climate finance, most important in recent years, then watershed development. So there's and being a government organization, government's priorities were taken into account because whatever the government policy and all. So NABARD moved along with government's priorities and government's policies, and as far as development is concerned. So that is why it has moved a long way now. Nowadays, more than 40 years old, 45 years old. So a lot of changes have taken place. Various initiatives have been taken, and over the years, as per the requirements of the economy, things have various interventions have been taken by NABARD.
You just mentioned that NABARD worked as per the government policies. What happens when after 5 years the government suppose changes and maybe a new government has a very different 5 year plan or has a very different strategy in mind? So what happens to the projects which were ongoing with the earlier government?
So it depends. Actually, as far as the ongoing projects are concerned, certainly they are completed and need to be completed. And it may happen, sometimes it could happen that maybe with the change of government, priorities change and all that happens. But being a government institution, it has to be aligned with government policies and priorities. So that's it. But incomplete projects, of course, there are issues which need to be completed in case there are issues. Of course, budgetary constraints and all have to be taken into consideration. But
Right.
yeah.
Okay, sure. So, sir, after moving from a long institutional role to independent consulting, how does policy advice differ when you're inside the system versus advising from
Yes.
outside?
Inside the system, there are. It's within a framework of say the institution's vision, its institution's policies, its priorities, and government's policies and priorities. And when one is outside, in fact, I must say that I have my own institution. It's called Institute of Pioneering Insightful Research Private Limited, INSPIRE, which is a research and consulting focusing on economic policy and climate change policy. So, as an independent institution, as an independent consultant, the it's an open thing which I can explore whatever I have in my mind. So there are no restrictions as far as my thinking is concerned. But of course, when I have to advise somebody, say a government institution or private institution, I also have to take into account governance policies and governance framework. But with an independent mind, with an independent thought, with my own thought process, my institution's requirements.
Got it.
So there's much greater freedom as an independent consultant.
Right. So, because you are an independent consultant now, do you also get to sometimes criticize the policies of the government? Is that
I can, if I,
something?
whenever required, I can just.
Right.
So that's the freedom which one enjoys.
Right. Sure, sir. Sir, India often speaks about doubling farmers' income. From a practitioner's perspective, what are the most realistic ways to achieve this goal?
Yes, the most realistic pathways are firstly to improve yields, then diversification, uh, value addition, risk mitigation, and non-farm income, uh, and of course, direct income support. So, firstly, as far as diversification is concerned, it's important to move from, say, cereals to high-value crops, horticulture crops, dairy, fisheries, and then food processing sector, one should move from there, and then non-farm activities, income from non-farm activities. And then it's important that the market system has to improve. There is the ENAM, there is electronic market, which has actually not worked well. What is important is that this ENAM needs to function well. And I must say that the three farm laws which were introduced, which actually would have transformed the rural marketing system in the country, and ENAMs would have functioned better because one constraint was that movement of commodities from uh, across the country. So that is there's in fact interstate movement of commodities is a big restriction for commodities. So when the farmers can get the right price somewhere across the country, anywhere in the country, so they would be able to transport their commodities from that place to another. So that is why had the farm laws been not been repealed, it would have benefited the farmers, especially since the majority of them are the small and marginal categories. It would have benefited them. And apart from that, contract farming. So another law within that was, among the three laws was, which would have promoted contract farming. That's also important. So farmers would have benefited from that as well. So what I would suggest is that maybe, of course, all these factors plus direct income, for example, the Kisan, PM Kisan, and along with PM Kisan, and since it provides 6,000 rupees per annum to farmers, but along with that, there are certain states like, for example, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Odisha, they provide a top up to the PM Kisan, which actually it's good. In fact, every state should do that because apart from, and the agriculture is a state subject. So apart from government of India's support, the states should also support the farmers through direct income. So since farmers suffer from various risks, so it's important that not only the income from their farming activities, they should also get some stable income.
Okay.
So what I would suggest is that there needs to be reforms in agriculture marketing, and there needs to be another consultative process. And uh, problem is that reforms in agriculture, the various governments have been talking about for several years, several decades now. It's a political issue, not an economic issue.
Right.
Had it been an economic issue, it would have been solved. And unlike the 1992, industrial reforms, economic reforms, farmers are used as a political tool, and that's the problem. So it's important that all stakeholders must once again sit together and then work out. And it's various institutions, government institutions, research agencies, the state governments, all stakeholders, farmers, they must sit together and really finalize and work out an effort. So as far as increasing farmers' income is concerned, it certainly can increase through various efforts, and farmers must get the right price for the right commodities.
Right.
That's important.
So, from your long career in development economics, which is that one lesson which textbook does not teach?
Yes. Uh, it's actually, you must understand that it is understanding the ground level reality. and which is the psychology of the people, how to understand their norms, the social norms, the individual, the behavior. So it's not just about, say, a different support which is being provided, but also it's a human approach which is needed. That's important. Human approach.
Right. So, sir, if there is one thing that you would like to tell our students from your 30 years of experience at NABARD, which is that one thing which will help them grow in life?
Uh, uh, if it is one thing, I must say that one must first of all have an analytical bent of mind. One must understand the economy. One must have data analytical skills, good in econometrics, and of course one has to have an open mind to learn, to keep learning. That's all I can say. That in fact, with my experience in 35 years as an economist and development professional, I keep learning. Even to this day, I keep learning.
Right.
So that's important. That has to be, they have to have an open mind and keep learning, and focus on analysis, on analytical aspects. That's what, to have a good foundation of, analysis.
Right. Sir, thank you so much for your time today. I think it was a very interesting session. Many of the economic students, they would have heard NABARD here and there, but to understand it in depth, to understand what it does, to understand how the agricultural sector works, that is the key takeaway from today's podcast. And I really want to thank you for helping our students with that.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure, and I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Sir, as we end the session, I would love for you to tell the audience about the books that you were telling me about.
Okay, actually, there are two books which, as I said, we have published. That is my company, that is Institute for Pioneering Insightful Research Private Limited, Inspire, which was promoted by me and my daughter Debesh Roy. And we published two books. First book was India's Agriculture and Food Exports, Opportunities and Challenges, which was published by Bloomsbury.
Okay.
We have edited the volume, and while we contributed papers to that, chapters, there were other experts who also had contributed their chapters. Second book which was published was Transition Towards Net Zero, Pathways Towards a Sustainable Future. Okay. So, and here again, we both were editors, and there were experts who had contributed to chapters, and that too was published by Bloomsbury.
Okay.
And both these books are available on Amazon.
Okay. Is it available in the soft copy as well, Kindle as well?
No, not on
the hard copy.
It's hard copy. It's there.
So do share us the link of the books, and I'll go ahead and I'll share it with my students as well.
Sure, thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time today, sir. It was a very good session.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you.